Chris, thanks for coming on once again. Penn State recruiting recap here after National Signing Day. Of course, Chris is here to talk through the class with us and everything. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Doing well, doing excellent. Appreciate having you here. So let's get down to business. The Penn State 2026 recruiting class, you could describe it in a few different ways, but one of the words that I would use is just plain chaotic. I don't think that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just kind of chaotic. The group was near top 10. They had key elite in-state players committed to the program. Guys like Kevin Brown were committed as well, and they had an early surge for with the former staff as well. Then the season kind of, came in, and James Franklin gets fired. The class kind of falls apart. Obviously, we have covered the poaching that's gone on with this class, and not just with Franklin, but with the recruiting staff and other things like that as well. It doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision to fire Franklin, but there were, I suppose, consequences, I think you might say. But now the class is finished after National Signing Day. They have 15 players, Chris, and we're not going to talk about all 15 guys, but I do want to turn it over to you. Who are some of the most impactful guys, or the guys that are maybe underrated in this class that you're excited for Matt Campbell to get his hands on?
Well, before I get into the guys, I briefly just want to say this, that I think this class, what Matt Campbell did with this 2026 class was incredible. I think he did, all things considered, what the hand he was dealt, did a phenomenal job. Because when he started off with this class, he only had one recruit signed in Jackson Ford. That was it. And when he got hired so late, I would say probably 90% of the 26 guys were already committed and verbal. So, but what he did a phenomenal job. And, when you go look at the rankings and stuff, I would advise people to use On3 and, which is Rivals, and look at their rankings. It's been proven that their hit rate is the best. So some of the guys I would start off with is Elijah Reeder. I think was the gem of the class. And he started off, he's from New Jersey. He's 6'6", 210 pounds. He is, a lot of people compared him to Chaz Coleman, which I understand the comps. He's explosive off the ball. He's got great length, a very good burst, which you can't teach. Either have that quick initial burst, which I think is very important. And he's a football player. He's aggressive. I'd be careful with the comps to Chaz Coleman, because Chaz Coleman came in at 240 pounds at Penn State, which is why he was able to play his first year. But this kid's only 210 pounds, so he's going to need a year in the weight room. But he has a lot of the, similar fluid movement skills as Chaz Coleman, and just the length, the burst, the athleticism. And, why this class really epitomizes what Matt Campbell has done so well at his time at Iowa State and what he's been known for. And that's finding under the radar guys. And he does a great job of finding the under radar guys, these hidden gems, and coaching them up. And for instance, I just mentioned Elijah Reeder. On3, Charles Power, who's like the main scouting director at On3, he had a top 10 of the biggest steals of the class. Elijah Reeder was number 9 on the list. And Elijah Reeder everybody thinks all star rankings don't matter, whatever. Listen, I love just to show you how good Matt Campbell is at finding hidden gems. There is about 4 guys, 3, I know at least there's 3 definite, maybe 4, that were all just kind of average 3 stars that in the last rankings update all got bumped up to a 4-star. And that's a credit to Matt Campbell and his staff finding these hidden gems. So Elijah Reeder was like an average 3-star. Now he's a 93 4-star on 3, and he even got bumped to a 4-star on 24/7. The other guy I want to mention, and Charles Powers mentioned this in that this guy was kind of, I guess you could say, would have been an honorable mention that almost made the list as far as the biggest steals, is Josiah Zayas. Josiah Zayas is 6'2", 200 pounds. He's listed as an athlete. I think his best position is corner, to be honest with you. But he was another guy that was an average 3-star. I turned on his film. He immediately popped on film. He looks, I don't have an official 40 time on him, but he's just running right by guys. I mean, he looks like your typical big-bodied ex-receiver, good vertical threat, downfield threat. I mean, these are like legit 4-star talents that went under the radar that Matt Campbell was able to find. Tyrell Chapman out of New Jersey, 6'2", 180, 185 pounds. He played quarterback. He's going to be a corner. I think that's what they recruited him as. He played quarterback on offense. One of those things where, a lot of high school teams will just put their best athlete at quarterback to have the ball in his hands. Another 4-star talent. He's another guy that was just an average 3-star who got bumped to a 4-star by On3. I think he's going to be a corner. Maybe there's a chance he gets moved to safety. Just another high-level athletic guy. Even at quarterback, you see him just outrunning everybody. It just looks like he has good speed. In coverage, he's very aggressive. And having that length at 6'2" as a corner is that's just a huge plus. Coaches love that. Next, I'll hit up on Case Evans. I know you mentioned Peyton Falzone backstage, but I actually want to talk about Case Evans. Case Evans is a 6'3", 200-pound quarterback out of Texas. Now, he's just an average 3-star. He's not ranked high. He's probably down to 50th something ranked quarterback. But I'll tell you this. I'm super impressed by Case Evans. If it was me, this guy would be a borderline 4-star. You watch Rocco Beck's film and you watch Case Evans' film, and he looks like a Rocco Beck clone. His style of play, his arm talent, his arm strength, and he's bigger. He's a mobile quarterback. He could run. He's got actually better size than Beck. That's 6'3". And one of his strengths is he throws a beautiful deep ball. Matt Campbell teams love a vertical passing game. They love the deep ball. And this guy throws a beautiful deep ball. And I'm pretty high on him. I really think he's an under the radar guy. Definitely underranked. Next, we'll go with Bryson Williams out of Nebraska. So another guy who was, I believe, just a 3-star. I don't think he got a bump to a 4-star, but he's a safety recruit, 6'4", 180 pounds. So really good size, really good length, fast, athletic player. He ran a 10.8 100-meter dash. So, that's pretty good speed. Just a high-level athlete, always around the ball. Just very good, just a playmaker as a safety. Obviously, he's going to need to bulk up. Being 6'4" at 180 pounds is kind of skinny, and he's skinny on film. Now, hopefully, when he bulks up, he keeps his athleticism and speed, which most people do today. But he's another guy that I would consider close to a 4-star talent. And these are just incredible hidden gems that Matt Campbell found. And like I said, coming from where they started behind the 8 ball with only one recruit and everybody already signed, it's an incredible job. The last guy I want to mention is Ben Whitver, receiver out of Virginia. This guy is really interesting because he's 6'2", 190 pounds. So he's got great size. He ran a 4.49 at an Under Armour camp. And at Under Armour, they do electronic timing, just like the NFL Combine. So that 4.49 is legit. And at 6'2", 190 pounds, that's very good speed. He is also, now he's only a 3-star. He's also Virginia's all-time leading receiver in yards. And he's 3rd all-time in Virginia in receptions. So he's got good speed. He's got good size. One of the most important things that I look for in receivers, besides just their physical tools of being big, fast, and their measurables, is are they good route runners? Do they understand the nuances to route running of how to beat man coverage, how to get off the press? He does. This guy shows advanced route running ability. And what I don't understand is he hardly got any big offers. And you really got to, and I'm not saying that's a negative because I know people get upset when you say the slightest thing that, they don't like hearing. But at 6'2", 190 pounds, Virginia's all-time leading receiver, runs a 4.4. Why would he not get bigger offers? Now, I could understand powerhouse schools like, other powerhouse schools at Ohio State or whatever, a Michigan, Georgia, Bama. Why? they probably had guys in front of him. But the surprising thing was he didn't even get offers from like a Virginia, like being Virginia, from Virginia Tech, Virginia. You thought you would have saw some offers there. But either way, I think people slept on this guy. I think he's very underrated. In a lot of ways, his recruitment, totally different players, not the same, remind me of Parker Washington when Penn State had him. You know, Parker Washington, who's having a really good NFL career, was really good at Penn State, was from Texas. Parker Washington, as a 4-star receiver in Texas, did not get any offers from any of the big Texas schools, any of the Big 12 schools, SMU, Texas Tech, TCU, none of them offered him. And yet he went on, he was a great route runner. He, not a big guy, but he went on to have a really good career. So I'm hoping like this Ben Whitver, the recruitment kind of reminds me of that, where people are sleeping on him. And the other thing I'll say lastly is everything about Matt Campbell in the transfer portal and building this roster is all about size and physicality. And you see he wants to play big boy football, smash mouth, and he just loves size. Not just on the offensive line or defensive line, but you see it at corner, you see it at safety, you see it at receiver. I mean, they got two corners that are 6'2", 2 D backs that are 6'2", receiver that's 6'2", 6'3", one safety that's 6'4". So a big emphasis on size, but they got solid football players. Like, these guys are good athletes. They're under the radar. He did an incredible job. Like I said, an incredible job starting off from scratch, pretty much. And I just think it's it's a testament to, like I said, Campbell and his staff just being able to find these hidden gems. So I'm happy. He did a great job.
For sure. I mean, I think that Ben Whitver guy, wasn't he committed to James Madison? I think it was.
Yes. Yeah, he was committed to James Madison. Then he flipped to Penn State.
Well, James Madison knows what they're doing, recruiting guys, apparently, with Kirk Sneddie there and Bob Chesney there and everything else. So you know what? I'm cool with it. I'm good with the James Madison commit flip at this point. I'd probably prefer that from like a Virginia or Virginia Tech commit flip. But I guess I'll touch on Peyton Falzone real fast, because I think I know where you're at with him as a quarterback. And I think I've watched the film. I don't disagree with you on him as a quarterback. I do think that his future as a quarterback in college football is questionable. But what I do see in him is, a fringe 5-star athlete in him, where he's 6'5", he can run like a receiver, but he has the size of a tight end out there. I think Matt Campbell and these guys are gonna, look at Peyton Falzone when he gets there and say, okay, maybe you can play quarterback a little bit, but then once it becomes clear, maybe Case Evans passes him up or somebody else, I think that they might have a real serious talk with Peyton Falzone and be like, look, dude, you're a fantastic athlete. We can use you in so many different ways other than quarterback, because we got these other guys here. Go play tight end for us. Go play receiver for us. I mean, do you see what I'm seeing here?
Absolutely. And that's what all the talks about Falzone has been. Everybody, people in the industry, and, there's some guys connected with some college coaches and scouts that I know of. They all said he's going to end up being a tight end. Every one of them says he's just going to end up, because just exactly what you said, great athlete can end up being a tight end. Players are stubborn. The kid grew up playing quarterback his whole life. He wants to be a quarterback. I get it. They'll give him a shot. But I just think those mechanics are going to be so hard to overcome. And he's just such a good athlete that ultimately I could. Most people are leaning that he will eventually be a tight end in college. Kind of reminds me, a lot worse mechanics, but athletically, of Tommy Stevens. You remember him at Penn State, a big 6'5" guy who could, 220 pounds, that could really run. And, that's, kid's a great athlete. I wish his mechanics were a little better, because he would be hell of a quarterback. He'd be a great dual threat quarterback. But yeah, ultimately, I do agree with you. As do, like I said, most of the scouts in the industry. They all see him down the road, probably transitioning to a tight end.
All right, good stuff. That's your pretty much signing day recap for Penn State, as they were pretty much the only team in the Big Ten that was really signing some kids. Obviously, there were some signings and stuff like that. Michigan State got a receiver that was beneficial for them, and a few others here and there, but this was pretty much the biggest story on National Signing Day on Wednesday, so wanted to cover that. Chris, any final thoughts or anything about this Penn State class before we move on?
Yeah, I would like to touch on real quick the Michigan State receivers. So you're talking about Samson Gash. So Samson Gash, Franklin, for whatever reason, didn't really offer him. He came to camp at Penn State, and I guess he performed well, but he wasn't overwhelming, and they had some guys in front of him. He got fired. Campbell came in, immediately offered him. And his father, Sam Gash, was a former fullback for Penn State. But they came in so late that it was just hard to make up ground. But I'll tell you this, watching so much film for the past decade or so, there's guys on film that when you don't know their official testing numbers, their 40 time, could look like they're flying and look like they're a lot faster than what they are. And then there's the reverse where they look like they have okay speed, and then you see their time. You're like, holy shit. Now, I thought Samson Gash looked pretty fast on film. Not super fast, but just a good overall athlete. He has the state – he broke the Michigan State title for the 100-meter dash. He ran a 10.41, and that is the official 100-meter dash record for Michigan. So would have been nice to be able to steal him, but like I said, there's too much ground to make up there in just a short time. The Campbell and those guys gave it their best effort, but it is what it is. Like I said, he did the best with what he had starting late. And, some of these guys are going to turn out to be pretty good ballers, I would predict.
I think you're right. I think that Penn State fans have, maybe not like a top 10 class or anything to look forward to, but here definitely a class that recovered well, and Matt Campbell was able to do some nice things with, find some hidden gems, and bring them into the program.